focal point of hard drug addiction in the United States. The urban ghettos house nearly 3/4 of the hardcore addicts, with New York's teeming slums far out in front.
The traffic starts in Manhattan. It's more readily obtainable in Manhattan, especially in the Harlem area, up around Lexington Avenue, from about 97th through around 135th Street, 116th Street, running east to west completely, 125th Street, and so many other spots. Probably take me all day to name them all.
America's known heroin population of over 60,000 collectively shoots nearly 2 tons of opiates a year. More than half live within the tenement shadows of Harlem and the Bronx.
When I first came to East Harlem in 1948, it was primarily a large Italian and Puerto Rican community. For our part, as far as the kids or the adolescents were concerned, it was constant warfare. There were many, many gangs. And it might be said that gangs were the main problem in East Harlem then. There was much bloodshed, and the ironic thing is that the only thing that united Italians and Puerto Ricans together was the use of drugs.
For the ghetto dweller, heroin is a desperate bid for freedom, an escape from the despair of the tenement prison.
After getting married, sort of couldn't meet up with the responsibilities that I had taken on, and sort of felt the need to escape from these. My first marriage, I've been married twice, has only lasted about 4 years, with continuously using drugs. I had 2 children. Right after my first marriage broke up, I was immediately married again. In fact, my first marriage broke up through meeting this other woman. I went along for about 8 months not using drugs, and finally I come back to getting the feelings of, trying to escape again. And I started using drugs 8 months after my second marriage.
I feel that the main problem in the city at the time is environment. I would say that the good majority of the people that go on to heroin go on it as a result of their environment. The people they know, their friends, the ready availability to obtain it, and so forth.
I started to use it. I started to sniff it just to be part of a group. I started to use it while I was in school. And one day I woke up and I was addicted. I woke up and I was very sick, and I didn't know what was bringing it about. But I did find out that as soon as I took some heroin through my nose, I got well. I felt normal.
And once a fellow is on heroin, it may be years before he realizes or wants to admit to himself that he is indeed a junkie and that he is in need of help.
A fellow can start on narcotics, I would say, at any age, really, of course, and within a matter of 3 to 6 months, starting out at about $4 or $6 a day, he can work his way up to a $100 a day habit.
I was using about over $100 a day. Everything I would get was to go through my arms.
The Harrison Act of 1914, strengthened by a series of Treasury Department regulations, is the basic law restricting production and distribution of narcotics. Although the law does not refer to the addict himself, the implicit premise is that addiction is willful indulgence, meriting punishment.
I feel that the people living in the metropolitan area are arrested more frequently and exposed to arrest, and the possibility of being jailed much more than the people in suburban areas, for the simple reason that a good majority of them, the majority of them, come from poverty homes. They don't have, in most cases, money for proper legal aid, although the city will provide them with some. What about you? Henry, you stuff? Let me see what you look like. What are you doing with the needle in your hand then?
Possession alone is sufficient evidence for conviction. Users, anticipating raids, frequently conceal their day's supply in a toy balloon, keeping it in their mouth. If apprehended, they swallow the evidence, knowing that they can retrieve it later.
Are under arrest for unlawful possession of needles and unlawful possession of heroin.
Following World War II, hard drug use, particularly among young people, was on the upswing. Public reaction surged, resulting in more stringent controls, stiffer penalties. The 1956 Narcotic Control Act spelled out the most severe and inflexible set of laws ever put on the federal books. Penalties for possession were only slightly less than those for selling. Probation was possible only on a first offense possession charge. The sentence was 2 to 10 years. Second and third offenses and selling in any quantity, even soft drugs such as marijuana, brought terms up to 40 years with no chance for probation or parole. Selling heroin to a minor could bring a possible death penalty. At the same time the law was taking a harsher look at the addict, popular opinion began to swing back in his favor, recognizing that he was not just a criminal, but a sick person, a pathetic, tortured human being in need of help. The Narcotic Addict Rehabilitation Act of 1966 set forth a new national policy for treatment of addicts. At the core of the policy is the premise that addiction is an illness that should be treated, not a criminal act in itself. For the first time, federal law permitted addicts to apply for treatment instead of being prosecuted. At the Federal Narcotics Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, bars that had restrained addicts for 33 years were removed, dramatic proof of society's new attitude toward the wretched victims of the opium poppy. It became a major drug abuse research center, administered by the National Institute of Mental Health.